So we have, for the last 2 years plus, but particularly over the last 2 years as things have become incredibly acute with this genocide, as you say, been trying to get our government to uphold human rights and justice, the basic things that I think are necessary if we are to be a principled and consistent player on the international landscape. And also, obviously, to ensure that everybody, innocent people, are not being subjected to merciless slaughter. So that has looked like, trying to get a special category visas opened for family members of Palestinians to come to, end up in a safe place in Aotearoa, but also not only recognising Palestinian statehood, but moving a step further and sanctioning Israel for its war crimes. So after about a year of trying to get the government to do that, we found that they weren't really doing all too much. They did place some individual sanctions on a few Israeli ministers, some of the most extremist of them, but nonetheless the entire state is obviously facilitating this. So in December of 2024, off the back of the UN General Assembly motion, which our country, and I believe yours and many others, voted for, to basically sanction Israel for its unlawful occupation of the occupied Palestinian territories and the settlements that were happening there, I then drafted a members' bill called the Unlawful Occupation of Palestine Sanctions Bill, which I put into something called the biscuit tin. It's our ballot for people who are non-executive members of Parliament. And as a result of a change to the standing orders, if this is getting too technical,
it's all parliamentary.
But it is parliamentary. But basically what that means in a nutshell is that if we can get 61 non-executive members of Parliament, because we typically have 120 in Parliament, to support the bill onto the floor of the House, then it can get debated. So I spent the following few months getting all of the opposition on side. So we had Labour, Anti-Party Māori, or the Māori Party, which meant we have 55 of the 61 necessary. So I have spent the last year trying to get 6 of 68 government MPs to try and support my bill. Something you may not know about our political landscape is that we are considered the most whipped in the Western world, so it's very unusual to get parliamentarians crossing the floor.
Is that why we ended up with scenes like this?
So, Mr. Speaker, I will reiterate my call for the government to pick up our unlawful occupation of Palestine sanctions bill and to sanction Israel for its war crimes. If we find 6 of 68 government MPs with a spine, we can stand on the right side of history.
That is completely unacceptable to make that statement. Withdraw it and apologise.
No.
Then leave the House for the rest of the week.
Happily.
Well.
I'd been saying as much for the last 2 years at protest, so I wasn't quite sure what the Speaker was so upset
presumably
about.
doing it within the hallowed sphere of Parliament. Now let's talk, if we may, with your opinion of what Keir Starmer's doing. It's suggested that Belgium, Australia, Portugal, Canada, Malta are going to announce plans to recognise Palestinian statehood alongside Britain and France. No New Zealand there.
Yeah, and I guess to give some context to that, in our domestic landscape, we currently have a three-party coalition. To summarise it, it's probably the most conservative government in my entire lifetime that we've had. And there has been some public differences of opinion expressed among the three men in charge of those respective parties.
Might their opinions change with perceived movement coming from Britain, France and hopefully Belgium, Australia, Portugal, Canada?
I mean, look, to make a punt, I think that our former Deputy Prime Minister, Co-Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Foreign Affairs will at the UN General Assembly next week probably announce that we are recognising Palestinian statehood in line with allied countries.
Then may I ask, what do you think is going to... How is recognising Palestine as a state going to have any material bearing on the situation?
It's a really good question. I think that it is, as many others far smarter than myself have said, it's a diplomatic and moral victory per se. It does mean that we are moving towards...
Is it not a victory for Hamas? I mean, it can immediately be described as victory for Hamas by those who have been supportive of Israel's actions.
I think that the whataboutism that we've been playing for the last 2 years as innocent people have been mercilessly carpet bombed and sniped as they've been lining up for food aid kind of means that we need to come back down to reality on this. If we as nations around the world are going to pretend that we want to have a two-state solution, you need to recognise both of those two states. And I also find it pretty galling that many countries who have been involved in all kinds of aggravation in the region over the past few decades are now trying to impose conditions on recognising the sovereignty of of a country, of an entity, of a peoples that they have intentionally destabilised, right? So let's just come back down to earth and say that it is necessary, if we are to get towards a two-state solution, to recognise both of those two states.
But will it lead to any material change on the ground in Gaza? I have grave doubts. Doubts.
Again, this is why actually the clip that you played earlier is from an urgent debate that was on recognising Palestinian statehood. But the point that I was making is that we have to go far further. We have to implement sanctions against Israel for the genocide that it is facilitating. Again, we cannot pretend that we are bastions of human rights. We cannot pretend that we're willing to uphold the international rule of law if we're not doing that in a principled and consistent manner. So recognising Palestinian statehood is good. It is a moral and diplomatic victory. It is important if we are to move towards the two-state solution. But yes, as you say, if we are to have a material difference for those on the ground, then we need to start eroding the economic base that is facilitating this war machine, which means sanctions.
Now, you stand here as the leader of the Green Party of Aotearoa. Can I get it?
You got it, nailed it.
I know. I'm sitting back. I had such a wonderful time in New Zealand as well. I've been there twice.
Come back any time, mate.
Yeah, thank you. It's the flight.
It's beautiful, though, isn't it?
I just it is stunning. I prefer South Island, but as leader of the Green Party of Aotearoa in New Zealand, what do you know about the Green Party here and the changes in the leadership?
I'm a big fan of Zach.
Yeah. He's trying to bring a populism to the left, to counter the populism of Nigel Farage on the right.
I think the left could do with a bit of popularity.
Well, populism and popularity are not necessarily the same thing.
No, this is true. But look, I think, what not a lot of people tend to understand about Green parties internationally is that we have the same 4 core charter principles. And just to outline that as clearly as possible, basically there is a recognition of finite natural resources. We live on this planet, right? And if we continue to exhaust and exploit it, then we're kind of going to kill the golden goose that's necessary for life on Earth as we know it. So if you accept that as the first premise, then the next one makes a whole lot of sense. We call it social responsibility. It's ensuring that everybody has basic access to those resources to be able to live a decent life, let alone participate in democracy. The fact that we've seen that basic access to resources for many, particularly hard-working regular people, being eroded over the last 40 plus years means, I think, that we are now in an era whereby you've got far-right strongmen who are manipulating people who are understandably really frustrated and angry because they've watched their material conditions slide backwards as centre-left parties have capitulated to the right economically. Then non-violence, we're hippies, we don't like going to war, but I think if you dig a little bit deeper into that, it's about how do you create a system or a world or a society where we actually prevent conflict by being grown-ups and trying to actually work through issues as they arise. And then appropriate decision-making, we like devolving decision-making powers down to the level where it actually affects people. And I feel as though what Zach is doing at the moment is understanding that it is really bloody difficult to get people to care about the end of the world if you can't put food on the table for the end of the week. So people need to understand it is the same economic system that is exploiting our planet, which is exploiting and exhausting people.
Brilliantly put, if I may say so. I'm going to hold my hand up and say I was actually unaware of those 4 principles. They do all follow on one from the other.
Kind of common sense, isn't it?
Kind of nicely. A really interesting conversation. I appreciate you coming over and saying hello. It's always to use your time being kicked out of Parliament in such a positive way. Chlöe Swarbrick, thank you very much.
Thanks,
indeed.
mate.
And good luck with all your efforts as well. Appreciate it.